Your boy Carcino, man. Thank you guys for supporting the page. Don't forget to support and click the link in the description box and hit up the Streamlab, or you can hit up the Cash App. The name is Carcino on the Cash App. And here we go. In Living Color. Somebody was like, Cino, I know you know the truth behind In Living Color. Of course, we were fans of the show. So when all of the controversy was taking place, we were right there, in love with this show when it first came on. But it was a show that was too funny for television. We were coming into a modern age where things that were funny and people were being offended, and nobody really paid any attention to In Living Color except for its targeted audience. And this is what Fox wanted. Fox had saw I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and they saw the success in all of these films, and they was like, oh, that and I'm Gonna Get You Sucker is a hilarious movie. This guy made that. We gotta bring him and his concepts over to Fox. So when In Living Color got accepted by Fox, Fox is going through a whole culture thing where they were trying to transition and go into another genre, because they had Married with Children. Okay, Al Bundy, that was like revolutionary. You got Married with Children coming in doing what it's doing. So you're like, okay, Married with Children's taking off. What's gonna happen with the next thing? Everybody's like, what do you mean the next thing? We need the next thing to come and kick off. We need to tap into that urban market. This guy just had a big, huge film with I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. We need this guy on board. So sure enough, Keenan and them, they pitched the idea. Fox brings it over. They love it. So they gave creative control to Keenan Ivory Wayans, who brought in his brothers. Sean. Sean was the DJ, S1, SW1, and Kim, Dwayne. You saw all the the family, but what you didn't know, and what they didn't know, is how gifted these guys were at finding and discovering talent. They discovered Jim Carrey, David Allen Greer, Tommy Davidson, Takia Crystal, Cayman. Rosie Perez is on it as the choreographer. Jennifer Lopez was one of the Fly Girl dancers. So, this is just a few. Chris Rock has been on there. Tracy Morgan was on there at one point, I think. Don't quote me on it. Yeah. So Chris Rock was on there. I mean, it's so many talented actors, and of course, Jamie Foxx. How can we forget Jamie? Now, when all of these things were kicking off, Heavy D did the song for In Living Color. And when Heavy D did the song, and then In Living Color logo and everything came up, first thing that happened that was negative. They got hit with a lawsuit. The lawsuit was so massive because there was a group called Living Color. And Living Color was upset. They're stealing from us. They stole the name. Living Color. Their logo looked like our logo. So they had a trademark logo war. So In Living Color had to change their logo around because it was looking like Living Color, the group. So then they had to go to court and all this stuff about, they had to explain where they got the name from, and they was like, it's inspired by NBC. NBC would always come on their broadcast, we're presenting live tonight In Living Color. So when they used to make that, so it was inspired by that. And that's why it was called In Living Color. So it's sketch comedy, no problems, right? So the show kicks off, right? It's immediately popular from the very first season on. You had Arsenio Hall was completely irate at his impersonation when they impersonated him on the show. He had like a lifelong grudge with Keenan Ivory Wayans over the situation. They had over a 10-point Nelson rating in their first couple of years. They were crushing it. And as things were going wonderful over there, they did run into a lot of things that they had to censor. The incident with the men on film, when they start doing that sketch, they had some Fire Marshal Bill sketches that were too much. The Billy D. Williams impersonation with the Colt 45. You know, they were using it almost like a get a girl too drunk and let her pass out, and here come the Billy D impersonator guy creeping up on her when she passed out. These are the things that didn't go well. You know, it was a couple of homies don't play that was, you know, it was kind of iffy at the time. Now, what Keenan Ivory Wayans came up with is the fact that the Super Bowl gets all these 25 million people at the time, 30 million people were watching the Super Bowl. And they said, well, at all those people are watching, at halftime, there's like nobody watching. So that's what he's like, you know what? There's no one watching at halftime. So what we need to do is put on a special In Living Color that's going to air during the halftime only. And we're going to advertise it on Fox and have people coming up. Like during the halftime, we got a special show. Because at halftime, people go get some food, they go pee. They're not thinking about the halftime show. And this is back before there was like big, musical numbers. Halftime show was some Joe Blow going over the plays. It was no big theatricals at that time. It's halftime. So people start doing whatever they're gonna do. So at our house, we definitely turned over to In Living Color. And In Living Color had a clock above them. And it's letting you know when to turn back to the game. And they decided to air a special Men on Film episode. And Doritos was the sponsor for this episode. Now, Doritos was happy to sponsor this whole thing, and they made a killing. They made a killing off of this because everybody turned over there and it crushed. I mean, crushed it. When people came by to check it out and say, well, we got to find out what's going on here with this show, they never knew how big it was going to be. They never knew how big that this was going to get. It was millions and millions of points. Homes watching In Living Color that turned away for the halftime and was watching In Living Color. All these households tuned in. So while they're doing this, they said, well, you know what? We need to get this, show on the road. And as the In Living Color, I mean, it's on YouTube now. You'll see the full skit. But this show was so raunchy, and for the sponsors, they had no idea of what the show they was gonna get. They just knew they were getting the variety thing, and Living Color was popular. So they was like, let's get involved. They didn't know they were gonna be men on film and hanging it in and two snaps in a circle and I want to play with the blue balls. And then they made a joke about Richard Gere being outed, you know, out the closet. And then they made one about Carl Lewis. They even joked about Joe Namath, Broadway Joe. Yep, doing it the Broadway. So, yeah, it was crazy. But the thing about this show and what made it so hard to go through, because Greg Fields had such a rough job trying to go through this show with everybody, they're trying to like get this thing going on, man. They gave that guy he was great by the time this show was going on with all the censorships that had to go in for all the stuff they were saying on the air. And they thought it was all fun and games. They didn't realize how the television game was as compared to the movie theaters. It's entirely different. A meter-maid mom, milkmaid mom, who's going to the store, she catches one episode and she starts up a whole big controversy. I mean, nowadays, a show like that would have to appear only on Netflix or something. Now, it's just entirely different what you can do and say. Everybody's so super sensitive about everything. I think in hindsight, this could have really been if they'd have just toned certain things down, it still would have ran. But Fox panicked. After that Super Bowl aired, they got all them hits. CBS was pissed off because they lost a lot of viewers that turned away, and their numbers dropped dramatically during the halftime. And those numbers didn't come back until almost halfway in the third quarter. People were still hanging around on Fox and other stations. They didn't get those people back until the game was back on, and like they missed like 4 minutes of the game, like four playing minutes of the game had already passed by when people were starting to come back to the Super Bowl. But at that point, the Super Bowl was kind of a blowout. So people didn't really care too much about how the game was going. So ever since then, Super Bowl brought in Michael Jackson the next year, and it started to be mega events. Like from that point on, it was like we finna have mega artists come here and put on shows every year. So they would spend big money because they were ticked off. Somebody, just basically piggybacked off of their show, and just took their viewers. You just came in and hijacked their viewers. So that had to be shut down. So calls were made immediately, and the NFL starts swinging that sword around about sponsors and everything. So Doritos is ticked off because they're getting pressured by the NFL. So this was your plan. You sponsored this. They were, whoa, we had no idea about the content. Makes no difference. Now we're cutting you off. Everybody was getting it. Fox was getting threatened that they weren't going to get the Super Bowl. And they was like, you know what? We just got to kill that skit altogether. Men on Film has got to go. They don't want it no more. We got some sponsors that's it's offensive to them. We got Carl Lewis upset, and Carl Lewis was being questioned about his, gender and all this stuff, and talk about his sexuality, and he was really hot. So when he saw that, that just threw more gas on the fire. Like, see, I told y'all, look, they even said it on In Living Color. So it even blew up. It was way worse than the White House with all the noise with him. So he was hot. And it affected him so much. He really, really was tight about it. So, with that being said, Kenan got into a big fight with them because they started airing rerun shows to try to maximize some dead time that they had, some spaces that they weren't getting numbers on. They started putting up some previous seasons. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you doing airing, you know, previous seasons? See, what people don't realize is when you start doing that early on, you shouldn't be airing reruns within your first 4 seasons. Definitely shouldn't. Because once you start doing that, the syndication loses its value. You know, you can't really price it now. See, that's why people wait for a while before they put stuff into syndication, because if you don't, you'll lose it. Now, see the Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory had so many years in the bank before they even came out with the syndicated shows that it appeared on TBS and all these other shows. Because people would sit around and watch the shows like it was brand new. Well, that's why it started to change. A lot of things started to spin around and go in another direction. Kenny and Ivan Williams was upset. They kept really, really putting pressure on him to cut scenes, and they cut out like a whole segment and all that. And he was quite livid at that point. Till he just walked, and it was like, I'm not gonna even be in the show. He did like the opening sketches. He stopped really being in sketches himself. Took himself completely out of the sketches. So he would only just do the introduction, mainly because there was a problem on set. That, let me not forget to bring that up also. There was a problem on the set, meaning that his family and them getting time and all the other comedians that they brought on the show, they were like, hey, wait a minute, like I should be getting more scenes, and now I'm splitting it with your family. They last name is Wayans, so they getting all the scenes. And then Damon's popping in. Damon was left to do some movies. He was starting his Hollywood career and taking off doing his movies. Next thing you know, he'll pop back in, do a couple of sketches for Kenan. Just basically on the strength of Kenan, he'll come back and do some segments. But people kept complaining. But the big money was made by Damon. Damon Wayans was getting paid $75,000 a sketch. He was making $75,000 for every time he did a sketch. So if he did Homie the Clown, Handyman, and Man in Film, 3 sketches, those 3 sketches right there, he just made 150,000. Well, more than that. Way more than that. I'm tired, so forgive me. So now you're looking at a situation where you have to make a choice on what you want to do, who you gonna ride with, how you gonna ride with the situation, the whole nine. All of these decisions have to be made. If you don't make these decisions, these things will implode. So he told Damon, we out of here. And then right after they left, Kim left. The rest of them left at the end of the season because of the contracts. And they were basically trying to shut down In Living Color. But they said, well, it got great ratings. We don't want to destroy this. So let's try to salvage it. and remake it and make it all about Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's the star now of In Living Color. And, they brought in all these other comedians. And the season they came in, it was funny. Jim Carrey was great. And they had David Allen Greer, David Allen Greer still was funny. Them two. And that's when David Allen Greer really shined and he became like the funniest man on television. And that was like the final season of In Living Color. They said, Jim Carrey was like, I got movie deals now. And Fox is like, we can't afford to pay everybody. So, sorry. Chris Rock had just got there too. And they just basically finished off the season. And that was that. He left Saturday Night Live. And, that was that. It was a great show. We all loved it. They made history. And it opened the door for things like Chappelle's Show and all of these other great comedic shows you've seen pop up that did sketch comedy. It showed that you could do that. And it was okay because Chappelle really pushed the envelope. But Dave just wasn't ready for success. So I'm out. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, man. I mean, it's just so much craziness going on right now with the company. It's just nuts right now. So we just trying to get through it. All right, everybody, I'm out. Have a blessed day.